What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Mekanism, and today, guys, we're going to be setting up an industrial turbine, which is an awesome multi-block structure that Mekanism offers, which uses steam to generate rotational energy and then converts that into power. Now, this multi-block structure is extremely customizable, even more so than the boiler, and there's a lot of stuff we need to cover about what parts you might need, which ones you can swap out for others, so I would highly advise you to watch this whole video before you actually go and start trying to set one of these up, whether you're going to test stuff out in creative or just build it in your world right away. So I've done the calculations for pretty much all the stuff we're going to need. Today we're going to be making a 5x5x8 industrial turbine, which is a medium size. It's going to be way bigger than we actually need to hook up for the boiler that we made last episode, but if you do have a lot of steam being generated, then you might need one that's even bigger than this. So there is a lot of crafting that we have to do today, and I already did some of it. We've got our 8 pressure dispersers, we've got our structural glass. We're going to have a little bit extra structural glass just because the structural glass and the casings come in pairs of, or groups of 4 when you craft them. So we only need 46 glass, but we do need to do a lot of crafting now. And the reason I separated these is just because we use a lot of steel in here, and I want to make sure we don't accidentally overcraft stuff. So the first thing that we are going to be making is actually something that it was requested I show you guys. I believe this is it. Yeah, so the saturating condenser. In last episode, someone requested that I show you guys how this works. You don't need saturating condensers in this build, so this is one of the pieces that's extremely, customizable that you don't need to worry about. But this allows for you to pretty much reclaim the water. You do need to vent steam out after it goes through the pressure dispersers in the turbine, but you can throw some of these condensers in, and it allows you to reclaim water from it, and then you can pipe it out of the vents. So the next thing we're going to be crafting is the casing. You do need a fair bit of casing for this. Now, the casing uses osmium instead of iron, which is, I believe, what we used yesterday for the casing on the boiler. And I just have to even these out. I should have just clicked these in there. Shift clicked it in, but there we go. So we've got, nope, we need to get that there. Okay, so we got the turbine. I'm just going to start searching it up and clicking it in there. Yeah, so we're going to need, we only need 106 of those, but we have 108 right now just because of overcrafting. The next thing that we are going to need is making 8 of the turbine blades. So we can just click those in right here. Oh, you know what? That's not actually what we were supposed to craft right there. We were supposed to be crafting the turbine rotors. So we need 4 turbine rotors. Whenever you're crafting rotors, they each have the ability to hold 2 turbine blades. So however many rotors you're going to have, you're going to need, if you want to fill them all up, at least twice as many of those turbine blades. So then we're going to grab out right here. This is going to be for making the turbine blades. So we're going to get 8 of those. There we go. The next one we're going to have to grab out is going to require all of these energy tablets, and we can actually just grab out all the rest of this, and we can grab out this too. So we're going to need to take some of the casing, and we are going to have to use that, combine it with 1 advanced control circuit, and we're going to get 2 valves. So we will be using both of these. This is where we're going to pump in the steam into one of them, and then the power is actually going to get pulled out another one. Then we need to make the coils for this, so that's where the energy tablets are going to go. Now, the coils are going to be the parts that we're going to replace with the saturating condensers, but these are going to go pretty much right above where the rotational energy is going to get turned into the power, and these are going to connect to the next piece that we're about to make. But we're going to be crafting these, and you could use, these, you could use the saturating condensers. So like I said, you really just want to wait until we're done here to see what you might need. And the last thing that we are going to be making is going to be the rotational complex. So this is going to be the piece where you're going to connect these coils, and I don't know why I put all of them in separate stacks, but the coils are going to go above the rotational complex along with the saturating condenser. This is where the whole conversion between the rotational energy and power is actually going to be, and that should be everything that we're going to use for today. So it's a fair bit of crafting. I do apologize if that was a little bit confusing as I was going through it, because it's hard to explain when you're not actually crafting stuff. Now, before we go over and start making this, I do apologize if people are just here for the information, but for those of you that are not just here to see me build this, I wanted to show you guys that on stream the other day, we finally went and removed all the torches, at least from the main room here, and everything is lit up so nothing will spawn in here. And I actually really like the way it turned out. We've got the glow panels on the ceiling and walls, and then we are using chiseled glass that pretty much works perfectly with this floor, and we've got glowstone below it. Eventually I want to make it into refined glowstone because it looks cooler, but unfortunately the glow blocks did not work. The recipe was a little bit glitchy and they did not light up, so I don't know if that's a bug or what, but I thought I'd let you guys know that. We've also made some upgrades to our gear. We've got obsidian gear and the armored jetpack. But now we're going to come back here and start crafting this. So we've got the boiler over here that's been running. It's generated a fair bit of steam, not even close to actually at the max capacity for the steam. Right now the water is full though, but we can just flip this back to Celsius and you can see it's way too low to actually be producing any because the heater is off right now. Now this is where we are going to be building the turbine. It's a little bit bigger of space, and the first thing I want to start out by telling you guys are going to be the dimension requirements. So I mentioned we're going to be doing 5 by 5 by 8. So unlike the boiler, the dimensions of this need to be equal on the base, and they need to be odd. So for example, you're going to want to start at 5 by 5, but you know, 5 by 5, 7 by 7, 9 by 9, they need to be equal and they need to be odd. You can't do even numbers on this, and of course the same restrictions apply for any mechanism multi-block structure where the max is going to be 18 by 18 by 18. In this case it would be 18 by 18 by 17, I think is what I've heard, but yeah, 18 by 18 by 18 is always just the generic max. You can't go anywhere above that. So this is going to be 8 high then from here. So the base is just going to be straight up casing. So 25 casing for the base, 25 casing for the ceiling. And the reason we've got this little area over here is that's where we're going to pump in the steam and eventually pull out the power. So we're just going to do the typical run these up the sides all the way up to the top. And it's a little bit annoying because we actually can't reach as high as we need to go with this, unlike yesterday where we had no issue with it. Something else I think it's really interesting is the thermal evaporation plants for some reason cause me a lot of FPS drops. So you'll notice the FPS has dropped a little bit looking over in this direction, but for some reason the boiler caused me no FPS drops, which is a little bit weird because they're both multi-block structures. So I'm not sure if it's just how they update or what, but yeah, just something I thought was pretty interesting. So we're just going to keep filling this in and got to pull out the rest of the turbine casing. And this one's a little bit interesting because it's pretty much easier to craft from the bottom up, but I want to put all the casing down first, at least to outline where we're going to be placing everything else. So now we can place down the turbine rotor, and this is going to be where the turbine blades go. It's going to be where the rotational energy is generated. It's going to be down in this bottom portion, so you pretty much pick the center block of your odd by odd base, whatever size it may be, and you're going to place down the first of the turbine rotors, and you're just going to build on top of that. They're pretty much like fence posts, so just build that up, and then you're going to get out your turbine blades. Now you can click anywhere on this pole that you've got for the turbines, and it'll put it on the bottom. So we click at the top, it puts it on the bottom. Now this is pretty much the same thing as like rotary craft turbines. I'm not sure if every mod does this, but pretty much as you put the blades on, they just continuously get bigger, and you'll see 2 per each of the turbine rotors. Is that what it was called? I keep forgetting. Yeah, so I think it's the turbine rotor. Yeah, so each 2 per turbine rotor, they keep getting bigger, and that's actually something very important to do with these is the fact that they get bigger. So when these start getting to the point where they are almost touching what'll be put against the wall right here, so if we pull out our structural glass and we put it against the wall right here, you can see that these are very close to touching this. If you put another layer on here and it actually comes in contact with the side block, your thing will not be able to function. So that is a reason that you might need to expand it larger in terms of width and length and not height, because you need to make sure that these aren't going to come in contact with that. And if you want to have more blades in this, because those are the limiting factor, and we'll go over that in a little bit, then you will need to expand it in that direction. So just something to keep in mind when you're building this. If you start building this up and don't actually have the glass down, you might not notice, but not super important because, you know, if you're going to build along with us, then you'll have that information before it actually happens. So the next thing we're going to put down is the rotational complex, which goes right on top of the turbine rotor. Like I said, this is where you're going to start generating the power from the rotational energy that the actual turbine is going to produce. And above that, you are going to be putting down the electromagnetic coils. Now, something very important is going to be that the electromagnetic coils need to be in contact with the coil that is directly above the rotational complex. So the multi-block structure will not form if you don't have one of these above the rotational complex, and the rest of them won't register if they're not actually in direct contact with the block that is above this. So right over here, a pretty good rule of thumb, just like the other time we were talking about the boiler, is that if this texture is not connecting like these are over here, then it is not going to register. So I'm actually not putting these down correct while I'm trying to show the example, but we're just going to break these, and oh my gosh, you don't get that back, do you? I feel like I just broke that and did not get it back. That is rough. Wait, what? Where did that other block just go? We should have gotten that block back. So I have no idea where that block just went. Okay, I might need to go craft another one of those because we should have gotten that block back, but we did not. Unless I'm missing it somewhere in here. Is it hidden in my inventory anywhere? No. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm going to go craft another one of those blocks. Okay guys, so we're back. I just crafted the coil so we can throw that down up there. Now the reason I'm having them like this is because I'm going to be putting the saturating condensers in the corners of these right here, just because we want to make sure that we have the coil right above the rotational complex. So we've got those right there. And now we need to fill in the pressure dispersers. So the pressure dispersers are going to go around the rotational complex. Now you need to have the pressure dispersers filling in all the area around this. So it's hard to explain without having the glass there, but imagine there's glass in this hollow area, glass or casing. In this outer area right here, you need to have the inner area, which would be 3x3 for us in this case, filled in with pressure dispersers around the rotational complex. So that's just so that the steam is not, going up there, it's staying in here. And what we need to do after that is take turbine casing and start filling in the outer portions of this. So the upper part is going to be full right up here. And I'm going to have to break these torches in a second, but we're going to be putting in one extra piece on the front at least. So we can break this torch right over here. And we can fill in this side too. So you can use turbine casing for this. I'm just using it for this because there's no point to actually being able to see it. So this is where something else is going to go. Okay, so I actually forgot to craft what we were about to use here. It's the turbine vent. Now I'll quickly go over the recipe. It's going to be just 4 turbine casings and 1 iron bar, and that's going to give you 2 turbine vents. We're actually only going to be using 1 today, and I guess we can actually put this over here because this is where we're going to get our water from. So I have 2, but I'm only going to be using 1 just because it'll give me pretty bad OCD, or my OCD will freak out if we have more of those and it's not symmetrical. So we're going to leave it symmetrical today. I'm sure a lot of you guys can totally understand that, but for now there's not going to be any need to have more of these. We'll be able to look at why in a little bit, but we're going to need the vent for actually releasing. Whether or not you have the condensers up there, you're going to need a vent still, and it needs to be on the same level as the pressure dispersers. So if you were going to put more around, you could put one here, or one here, one here, one here. You can put them all around there, but that's where they need to go. And if we're going to reclaim the water, we're going to be getting it from the vent if we have the condensers. But if you don't have those, then you're not going to be reclaiming water. So you still need the vent though. But now we're going to fill in the rest of this with glass. So we're just going to break these torches. And once we do that, the multi-block structure should form. And of course, we do have a couple extra pieces lying around for when we want to expand this. But for the time being, it should be sufficient for what we're going to be putting into it. And then the last thing we need to do is put down valves over here. So we can put down a valve. I guess we can put it actually right up here for steam. And we can put one right up here for the power that's going to be coming out eventually. And we can keep filling this in with the glass. And lastly, we can fill in the front right here, and then we can worry about getting this running. So there we go. It should have just formed. I don't have particles on, but you normally see the red little particles around it that always happen when something forms. So now there's another great UI for multi-block structure. A lot of stuff we have to go over. So the first thing that I want to look at is the statistics tab. It tells you turbine statistics, it gives you the tank volume, and then there's a lot of different stuff down here, the steam flow and the production. Everything listed here pretty much just lists the number of blocks in your multi-block structure for that section. So we have 8 dispersers, 1 vent, we have 8 blades and 5 coils. Now you'll notice there are limiting factors to this. That pretty much means that unless you have these that are going to register the same exact amounts for the production, flow rate, capacity, and max flow, there is going to be one of them that's limiting it. So if you did want to upgrade the steam flow portion, you would need to add more vents, because currently the vents are more limiting than the dispersers in terms of statistics. And then for production, the blades are more limiting than the coils. On a side note, the max number of blades that you can get is 28, so just thought I'd put that in there for you guys. So the max production is going to be 457.14 kilojoules, and the max water output is going to be 128,000 millibuckets per tick. So that's because we've got 4 of the condensers up there. So we've got that going. That's way more than we're going to need for all these stats. And until we actually start pumping stuff in here, the production is going to be 0, the flow rate's going to be 0, but we've got the listed capacity on it, and we've got the listed max flow on it. So we can actually start pumping stuff in here now. This is where the steam will fill up. This is where the steam input will be in terms of the rate, and the power will be over here. So we can start pumping this in, and then we're going to have to wrap the water back around so that it's flowing back into the boiler, and that'll help us save a little bit of energy. Now, something that you might want to note is that you do slowly lose out on water. So although you're reclaiming it, you're not able to reclaim all of it, but it's a fair bit. So if you were to put it in the thermoelectric boiler and it was just a closed loop and you allowed this to run, the boil rate would slowly go down. I'd say maybe 1 millibucket per tick every 5 seconds or so, and that's how much water you're losing out on. So it's very little. It'll save you a lot of energy if you're using the pumps or anything like that. So the first thing we need to worry about is getting the steam out of here, and the steam should be coming out of this block right here. So we can start pulling that around, and we just need to break this up here and wrap it around. And I will clean up this area a little bit. Whoops, that's one too high. I know it has bothered a couple people when I don't clean the areas up, but I will. We won't have to see the dirt up there, but we can pretty much hook it in right here, and boom, the thing starts running. This is awesome. I love the animation that this has. The turbine is now spinning, and that's the main reason I wanted to put it right here, so we could look down this hallway and see it. And you can see that because we have a ton of steam in there, this thing is just starting to run wicked fast to start. It will slow down because we're actually not producing any steam over here right now, but this thing is running wicked fast. We've got a steam input of 2,500 millibuckets per tick right now. The internal buffer of this is just filling up, and we are getting a ton of power. We are generating 71.28 kilojoules right now, so we're at a ton of power right here. And keep in mind, the way that we generated this much power was solely by putting in 1 stack of coal. So 1 stack of coal managed to get us, once this is done, I should say, I'll let this finish, but it's going to get us roughly 60 megajoules. I said millijoules before. I am sorry. You guys are going to freak out in chat because of that. Megajoules of power, and then just take away the amount of power that it costs to actually pump the water in, and you have how much power we just gained as a net gain of power. So it's a good amount. It's a fair bit of power. Now, this would be a different story if we were using the resistive heater and not the fuel wood heater, but that is not the case, so we are good to go. Now, we can actually start pulling the water out, and if I throw down a mechanical pipe up here, you can see it fills up with water. Now, it's going to be a little bit weird with piping this, just because this valve right here is also using a mechanical pipe, and so I do need to kind of wrap this around. So I'm not going to worry about bringing it back around right now, just because you guys can see that you can pipe the water out of here. You don't even need to set it to pull. You pull it out the vent normally, and then you just pipe it back over to your steam boiler, and you'll be good to go. But that's what I wanted to show you guys, having it function for a little bit, show you the numbers, show you how effective it can be, and how you can pretty much connect the two of them. So hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. If you found it entertaining or informative in any way, please feel free to give it a like, as it does help me out a lot. Also, if you have not already, be sure to look in the description, because you will find a link to my new subreddit where you can ask me any questions or give your input on the next Surviving With series. And also be sure to follow my Twitch channel, because I am live streaming pretty much every day for like 2 to 3 hours a day, where we mess around in the Surviving With world, and we'll also be messing around on other worlds, such as mod pack worlds that would be coming in the future. So be sure to follow that so you never miss a broadcast, and I will talk to you guys later.